you think you've talked about things like this before, I'm telling you, you haven't. We are counting on you to strip off your expectations, to go glass half full, not half empty, not to do any of the same old whinging things, but go to the future and look to what we can create.
Mr. Fuller said the best way to predict the future is to design it. So if we are looking at creating a strategy for the future, we know that it certainly needs to involve design. Hands up if you don't want a livable city or a safe city or a connected city or a walkable city or a sustainable city. We all do. The challenge is how we actually do it.
What it's showing there is, as I said, a whole range of neighbourhoods which have a walkable catchment around them. 5 minutes walk, 400 to 500 metres, so that's the radius of those circles. Shall We Dense is a piece of in-house research and development work. Our urban densities are very low on a kind of international scale. Just to compare 4 cities with Sydney, you can see that in terms of density, Sydney has the lowest density across the metropolitan area of those 4 cities, even Los Angeles. It's about equal priority for children playing, people walking, cars driving, bikes riding, etc. When you invest in design and in development and in good places, you reflect a level of dignity about people being in the public realm, people using the bus, the tram, etc. And I think that's a really important part of livability. This is a train station in Copenhagen, actually, and you can see here there's bike parking down in the basement, so you're going to wheel your bike down and so on. This is sort of the other extreme, but when our public transport infrastructure looks like this, it's completely undignified, okay? When the bus users have to stand in the dirt and wait an hour for the bus, it's just completely unacceptable, and it sends a message that those people aren't important, they're not valued, and you shouldn't be catching the bus. That's the message here. Really, density has kind of that triple bottom line aspect. It's social, it's economic, and it's environmental. And all of those things are really key drivers of livability.
We offered you a double billing of Alan with Fred Kent, President of Projects for Public Space. Fred unfortunately got called back to New York early. However, we did have an opportunity to do a walking tour of the city, which was videoed. So what we might do now is play that video for you so that we can get Fred's perspective.
I mean, this is actually a very interesting street. It's as diverse a street as you can find. More diverse than any street that I know of in Melbourne, or like even Sydney, and certainly Perth. It's breaking out of jail where you're thinking that the solution is just design to where it's really management and programming and activation and economic activity. I mean, placemaking is an economic development strategy. Yeah. It's not just an open space, let's have open space and everything will be fine. It's space that you actually want to work and be part of. So, entertainment, vending, food, markets, all those things.
What Fred is getting at is to think about the design of spaces, specifically public spaces in cities, quite differently. It's not about the morphology and shape of buildings necessarily. That's something that comes later. It's more about the idea of designing the social aspects of a street and a place. I think walkability is the #1 ingredient. The ability to be able to walk, and I mean that in a very broad sense, walk to everything that you need as a human being quickly and safely.
We don't all have to be of the same culture. We don't all have to be kind of having lattes or red wine, on the street. I think a city is complex and there's room for everyone.
I think it comes down to groups like this reshaping the conversation. I think one of your slides was about the costs of fringe housing versus local housing, for instance. Those are real costs that most of the population doesn't understand.
And everyone talks about Melbourne laneways and the bars and the hidden cafes and all that stuff. And I think they've sort of blossomed because there are some pioneering, creative people that found the opportunity, and that the opportunity was there, that it wasn't constrained by liquor licensing stuff and so on.
I might add maybe a comment from Fred Kent, who when we discussed this exact same point, said, it's the small wins, it's the incremental wins, his view is everything is too big. If you try and deal with everything, you take so long to try and get it right and have consensus that you never actually do anything at all. Pick your 5 best places, pick your 5 worst places, and then pick your 5 places which have the best opportunities. Focus on them, get them done, and then pick your next 5.
This is your chance to put down what you think is critical to making a city livable. So if you came into the room today thinking you knew your 10 most important things for livable city, I dare you to include some of the new aha moments you must have had during that conversation.
Talked about activation of laneways and not just a focus of the city, but also in the suburbs.
Some examples were activate existing upstairs spaces, shop top, using heritage buildings, those that are unused, micro businesses and homes.
Environment, so bringing the natural space into the city and allowing people in cities to interact with it. The example given was that, you know, maybe a bee in the city shouldn't have to fly more than 20 metres to find something it can feed on.
Remember, the whole purpose of this work is that it gets synthesised, worked on your work this afternoon, and tomorrow I think 50 people are getting together to focus on what we'll do our best endeavours to make your top 10 things.
It isn't just about the CBD, that the surrounding areas are important.
Choice and diversity, but importantly, an opportunity for 1,000 types of developments to bloom.
Pride was a big one for our group. A sense of pride in the place, a place that you love, a city that you love.
In a tram ring around the city.
I say every main street needs a pub and a church.
Public art was very big on our table as well.
Not to over-regulate and also to risk take and recognise that mistakes are okay to make.